Cruises are kind of remarkable when you really think about it. They are very convenient and easy to plan compared to most vacations, and they usually offer a variety of activities, excursions. You can visit multiple countries with ease. And if I wasn't so freaked out by the open ocean and just ships in general, I might actually want to take advantage of it. But that being said, while there are a lot of pros for cruises, there are also some cons to consider. And I'm not trying to sway anybody one way or the other, but I do believe it is important to have all the information, especially when it comes to taking a vacation. Everybody wants to return from vacation in one piece. And while vacations are meant to be relaxing and a break from reality, you do still need to be vigilant. You just never know what could happen when you are on vacation, and there are risks involved anytime you are traveling. So today we're going to be looking into the dark side of the cruise industry and why you may want to be a bit extra vigilant on your next cruise. Before starting, I want to say that there isn't a one size fits all when it comes to cruise ships and cruise line companies. However, one thing that all cruises are guilty of is waste. The average cruise ship produces roughly 25,000 gallons of sewage and 143,000 gallons of gray water from sinks, showers, and galleys daily. That's just way too much waste. These ships are allowed to dump any sewage wherever they please. And the biggest ships that carry up to like 9,000 people, all of their untreated sewage is just dumped into the ocean just a few miles away from land. And so it's just a lot of waste, and it's also a huge impact on the environment. Cruise ships account for 6% of black carbon emissions, which are created when diesel, coal, and other biomass is partially combusted. So all in all, whether you like cruise ships or not, cruises are bad for the environment. There's really no opinions about it. It is a fact that they do negatively impact the land, the sea, and the air. And so that is something to keep in mind. Now, there's also negative environmental impacts if you are taking a plane. There's an impact when you're driving. There's an impact if you take a train. And so I don't want to say, oh, cruises are the only, negative way of traveling. And it's, the most harmful to the environment. I don't know if they've done studies to show which one is the most, harmful for the environment when it comes to vacationing and traveling. But it is something to keep in mind. It isn't great for the environment. And I do think that we, as earthlings, we do need to be paying attention to that kind of stuff. What are we willing to risk when it comes to our environment for ease and convenience? And also, what are these big companies willing to risk for making an extra buck? But there is more than just hurting the environment that cruise ships are known for. They can also just straight up be dangerous. Of the millions of people who board a cruise each year, roughly 20 to 30 of them fall overboard. That may not seem like a lot statistically, but imagine if you or someone that you're with happens to be in that percentage. Also, falling overboard on a cruise ship is not the same thing as falling off like a little dinghy or a fishing boat. These things are huge. They're very, very tall. In fact, most of the new cruise ships made today are rarely built less than 213 feet, and that's, 65 meters tall. And while you may not be falling from that exact height, wherever you fall from on one of these cruise ships, it's not going to feel good when you hit that water. Most cruise ships have about 20 feet between each deck. So even if you were on, one of the lower decks, it's still very dangerous to fall from that height. if you happen to land funny, or you can't swim, or, God forbid, you're drunk when you happen to fall overboard, which is actually one of the more prominent ways that people will end up falling overboard is they're intoxicated, you are in for some serious pain, possibly a lifelong injury or even death. And hopefully when someone does go overboard, they are spotted quickly because cruise ships move at a rapid pace. And I don't care if you're Michael Phelps or whatever, if a rescue crew doesn't spot you and work fast, the odds are against you as the fall victim. Once again, though, the percentage of people falling off a cruise is fairly small. But even still, it is important to recognize that this does happen. It is also important to note that not all overboard incidents are identified and reported. In fact, there are a lot of onboard incidents that occur on cruise ships that just simply aren't reported. That being said, many cruise ships are now implementing state-of-the-art systems that utilize sensors and cameras to monitor the ship and its surroundings. So hopefully, as more people come forward with their stories about negative experiences on cruise ships, the cruise industry will adjust accordingly and invest in the safety of their passengers. In general, but I feel like especially when you're on vacation, you need to be aware of your surroundings. It's really, really important not to just completely let your guard down, even when you are trying to enjoy vacation. And just being aware of your surroundings is a good life skill in general. I personally am trying to get better at that. I have ADHD, and my husband sometimes will, be on my case about how I oftentimes run right into things, or I kind of walk kind of funny when I'm in public. I'm not really that aware sometimes of other people around me, and it's something I'm trying to work on. And it's also something that is a practice. You have to, really work on it to get better at it. It is a skill, being vigilant. And while doing research on cruise ships, I came across many stories about how rampant crimes are on these ships and how everything from theft, people being drugged, assaults, even murder, all of these things can happen. And a lot of times it happens because people aren't expecting it. They're not expecting that while they're on vacation, things like this could happen. And I can't possibly go over everything that, could happen on a cruise ship. I can't go over all of that in one video. So I'm going to cover some of the crimes on cruise ships that you would be wise to pay attention to. And these are the ones that were the most reported, and I was able to find some sufficient information on. Let's start with theft, because theft is definitely something that you have to pay attention to when you're on any type of vacation. But currently, there is no legislation that requires cruise lines and the U.S. Coast Guard to report minor thefts. And so if you're on a cruise and your stuff gets taken, you're kind of just SOL, you're out of luck. You can't really do anything about it. However, you can take preventative measures, and it is recommended that you pack light on cruises and leave your valuables at home. If you really don't need it, don't take it, especially if it's something that you care about and you like. Leave it at home. It's not worth it, getting snatched. Also, if you do have to bring some, type of valuables, money, whatever, onto a cruise, take advantage of the safes and the deposit boxes on board and use anti-theft accessories like a money belt. And in general, just do your best to make sure that you're not just leaving your valuables unattended, because when you do that, anywhere, people are going to do what people are going to do. And there's always people who are looking to take things while people are distracted or, intoxicated or partying or, doing whatever you may while on vacation. I found a really interesting research paper in the International Journal of Safety and Security in Tourism/Hospitality, and it was free to read and access. So I will link it in the episode description if you want to read more. It really does a good job of going over crimes at sea and how frequently crimes occur on cruise ships, and sort of gives some statistics to kind of support the argument that, hey, there are lots of crimes happening on cruise ships, and we do need to be more aware of what's going on, because a lot of these red flags people are missing and the government is missing. And so definitely read the paper if you're interested. But one of the arguments made in this paper was how a cruise ship environment may actually facilitate the prevalence of sexual assault due to the passengers being less aware of their surroundings. And if you think about it, it makes sense. A lot of times, people on cruise ships, especially if you are of age, you're likely drinking, you're partying, and then there's also this added factor of minors on a cruise ship. Oftentimes, minors, especially if you are, tween to teenage, year old, they're a lot of times just left unattended. And somebody that has a predatory nature could take advantage of this and very easily lure a child into an uncomfortable situation. And I just think back when I was younger, there were many times as a middle schooler and a high schooler, I was oftentimes, when I was on vacation with my family, there were times obviously where we were doing things as a group, but there were also times where we were allowed to roam free. And like I said, these cruise ships, they do have so many cool things that you can do. And oftentimes, teenagers or preteens, they will go off and do things on their own without their parents being around. And there is a risk that someone could take advantage of this sort of carefree environment. Because overall, cruises are seen as carefree environments that are fun and, super exciting, and there's so much to do. And, it's really easy to get wrapped up in that excitement and forget that at the end of the day, there's still people on this ship, and sometimes people are evil, and it's a sad reality that even on vacation we have to be mindful of that, but we do. It's important that we do. And so I don't want to say that to bum everyone out, but you have to be vigilant and do your best to stay with people that you trust while you're on vacation, and also keep an eye on the younger people that you're with. It is also important to pay attention to not only other passengers on the ship, but the crew members as well. Just like in every profession, there can be bad apples. And one thing to consider is that a crew member is likely to know how to easily navigate the cruise ship, whereas the passenger may not know how to do that. They might find it a lot harder because these cruise ships are huge. They are very maze-like. They're like a labyrinth, and someone with an understanding of a cruise layout could definitely take advantage of that and harm someone. And so, it is important to, like I said, stay vigilant and be mindful that not everybody working on, a cruise ship, or, even if you go to a, more traditional vacation route, you take a plane and then you go stay in a hotel, not everybody working in the hotel may necessarily have your best interest in mind. And so it's just important to realize that you do have to pay attention to the people around you. Not everybody is going to have your best interest in mind. My goal in making this video isn't to scare you into not taking a cruise, but rather hopefully help you protect yourself and others while you are on vacation. Vacations should be a happy thing, and nobody wants the vacation that they're on to be their last. So just be mindful of the risks and weigh the pros and cons before you venture out into the sea. And honestly, before you go on any type of vacation, it's just important to know that there are risks with traveling. And so, with all that being said, be well, stay safe, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for joining me. It's goodbye for now, but I hope to haunt you again soon.